I never imagined that one single night could flip my life upside down and force me to confront a truth I had been avoiding for years. It didn't start with shouting, accusations, or court cases. No, like most tragedies disguised as family love, mine began quietly, with tiny compromises I didn't even recognize as danger signs. For most of my adult life, I believed that being a good mother meant sacrificing without limits. My son, Adrian, grew up gentle, talented, and full of promise. When he met his fiancée, Serena, I welcomed her openly. She seemed warm, affectionate, and eager to build a life with him. I taught myself to ignore the slight tension in her voice. Each time she asked about my finances or casually mentioned how challenging it must be to manage life alone at my age. At first, the requests were harmless. Help with a bill here, suggestions about downsizing for my comfort, or offering to handle my legal documents since they're all so complicated. I foolishly took these as signs of concern. I even felt flattered that they cared enough to involve themselves in my affairs, but concern slowly morphed into control. They began showing up unannounced, going through my mail to help me stay organized, and commenting on how many keys I had. You don't need all those. It's unsafe. Serena would laugh softly while telling me, "You're too sweet, Aurora. People might take advantage of you." The irony still stings. The time their wedding approached, I should have seen the storm forming. The pressure increased, little nudges to change my will, questions about my savings, and assumptions about what I would be contributing to their new home. Still, I convinced myself it was normal. After all, parents help their kids. That's what love is, right? The night of the rehearsal dinner was my first real warning. Serena pulled me aside, her smile perfectly pleasant as she whispered, "Adrian and I think it'd be best if you signed over temporary financial rights to him, just until after the wedding. It will make things easier for us. Easier for them. More dangerous for me." I refused. That was the first time her mask slipped. Her eyes hardened, sharp as glass. "You're being difficult, Aurora. Why do you insist on complicating things for your own son?" That sentence haunted me for months. I didn't know then that it was only the beginning, that behind every suggestion they made was a carefully laid plan, a plan that would explode in front of 200 wedding guests and shatter the illusion of the family I thought I had. What happened at the wedding that exposed their true intentions so brutally? The wedding day arrived, glowing with fairy lights, golden decor, and a kind of fragile elegance that felt too delicate to touch. I remember watching the guests swirl around the ballroom, like they were part of a grand theater performance, everyone smiling, laughing, celebrating the start of a new life. But beneath the surface of all that beauty, something colder was crawling toward me, slow and deliberate. I stood near the entrance, holding a small gift bag for Serena, a simple heirloom bracelet that once belonged to my own mother. I thought it would symbolize the welcome I still wanted to extend. But when Serena approached, she didn't even look at the gift. Instead, she glanced around as if checking whether anyone was watching, then said, "We need to talk. Now." Her tone was clipped, hollowed out of warmth. Before I could respond, she ushered me to a side room behind the venue's floral arch, where Adrian was already pacing with a look I barely recognized. His shoulders stiffened when he saw me. "Mom," he began. "We need the keys, today." I blinked, confused. "What keys?" "To your apartment," Serena said sharply. "Adrian told you we're planning to move in after the honeymoon. It's easier for everyone if we settle there while we renovate our new house." This was the first I had heard of such a plan. My stomach dropped as I searched Adrian's face, hoping he would laugh and say this was a misunderstanding. Instead, he looked away, jaw clenched, as if he were the victim here. Serena stepped closer, voice dripping with entitlement. "You're not using that space efficiently. It's too big for you. We'll take care of the paperwork later. Just give us the keys." The directness of it stunned me. Not a conversation. Not a request, a demand. No, I whispered, almost unsure I had said it aloud. Serena froze. Her smile twisted into something sharp and venomous. "Don't be ridiculous. You owe this to Adrian. After everything he's done for you." But what had he done? Truly? When I repeated myself, firmer this time, Serena's response came fast and loud. Her hand flew up, and before I could react, her palm struck my cheek with a crack that echoed off the marble walls. The door behind us wasn't fully closed. Several guests had witnessed everything, Gasps, murmurs, a camera flash. Serena realized too late that her mask had fallen in front of an audience, far bigger than she intended. Adrian grabbed her arm, but the damage was done. Their carefully crafted facade had shattered in an instant, and my silence finally broke. What I said next changed the entire wedding, and my entire future. The room felt like it had been sliced open. Every whisper, every sharp inhale from the onlookers cut through the air. My cheek burned where Serena's hand had landed, but the deeper sting came from Adrian's silence. He didn't rush to me, didn't defend me, and didn't even look horrified. He only looked inconvenienced. "Mom, why would you provoke her like that?" he muttered, rubbing his forehead as though I had embarrassed him. My heart twisted. "Adrian," I said quietly. She hit me. Serena stepped forward, attempting to glue her broken mask back together. It was a misunderstanding. She startled me. She what? A voice from the doorway interrupted. It was Mrs. Patel, one of the family friends who had known Adrian since he played soccer in her backyard. Behind her stood several guests, phones in hand, eyes widened with disbelief. The moment had spread like a ripple, small at first, but gaining force. Serena stiffened, realizing the crowd wasn't going away. I finally spoke, not with anger, but with a clarity I didn't know I had. "I won't give you my home." "And hitting me won't change that," Serena scoffed. "You're being dramatic. Adrian and I need a stable place to start our marriage. You're alone. We're building a future. You should want to help, there." It was again the twisted logic she wielded like a weapon. Before I could reply, an older gentleman, one of Adrian's former teachers, stepped forward. "Young lady, no one is entitled to someone else's roof. Not even family, especially not on their wedding day." Serena's face tightened, but she wasn't finished. She turned to Adrian, grabbing his arm. "Tell her she doesn't have a choice." Adrian swallowed hard, eyes flicking between us. His lips parted, and for a moment, I thought he might defend me. Instead, he said, "Mom, don't make this harder. We're already stressed. Just give us the keys." There it was, the final fracture in a bond I had spent decades nurturing. My voice trembled, but not from fear. "I raised you to be kind, Adrian, to be fair. But if you think bullying your own mother is acceptable, then maybe I failed you somewhere." The guests murmured, shocked. A few even stepped back from the couple, as though witnessing something sour they didn't want to be close to. Serena, feeling the shift in the room, grabbed her bouquet and hissed, "You better fix this. You're ruining our day." I met her eyes, steady and unbroken. "No, you ruined it the moment. You put your hands on me." Silence settled like smoke, but the real twist came moments later when someone unexpected stepped into the room and revealed a secret that flipped the wedding upside down. Just as the tension in the room reached a breaking point, the door swung open again, this time with enough force to rattle the hanging decor. Everyone turned. My brother, Rafiq, stood in the doorway. Now, Rafiq isn't the type to involve himself in drama. He avoids conflict the way people avoid stepping on cracks. But the moment he saw my reddened cheek and the scattered expressions of shock around the room, something shifted in him. His jaw hardened, and there was a fire in his eyes I hadn't seen in years. "Who did that?" he asked, voice low and dangerous. Serena's confidence faltered. A tiny step backward, a flicker of guilt or fear crossed her face before she tried to mask it again. "I didn't mean..." She was yelling at me, Serena stammered. "I hadn't raised my voice once." Rafiq looked at me. "Did you yell, Appa?" I shook my head. "She demanded my home. And when I said no, she hit me." A wave of murmurs rolled through the crowd, heavier now that the full truth had been spoken clearly. Rafiq exhaled sharply, then turned to Adrian. "You allowed this? On your wedding day? To your own mother?" Adrian opened his mouth, then closed it. For the first time, he looked unsure. Maybe Rafiq's presence had broken through whatever spell Serena had cast over him. Or maybe the shame was finally catching up. Rafiq didn't wait for an answer. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small folder, one with documents I didn't recognize. "I wasn't planning to do this here," he said. "But since lines are being crossed today, let's clear something up." He opened the folder and lifted a paper. It took Adrian a moment to register what he was looking at. "What is that?" Adrian asked. A property deed, Rafiq replied calmly, for the new house you and Serena claim you're renovating. The house you insisted Mom should give up her home for. Serena stepped closer, eyes narrowing. Why do you have it? Rafiq's voice cut like ice. Because the owner transferred the house yesterday morning. To me, a collective. Gasp spread through the room. Serena went pale. That's impossible. Adrian signed. No, Rafiq interrupted. He attempted to sign, but the seller contacted me first, concerned about some of the aggressive tactics being used to rush the sale. They trusted me more, so they finalized with me. Adrian's face drained of color. Serena's voice cracked. You stole our house. Rafiq looked at her with a calm that contrasted sharply with her panic. I protected my sister. Something you never intended to do. The room erupted with whispers, supportive ones this time. For me and Serena, her perfect wedding image was collapsing like a flimsy cardboard set. But the biggest shock wasn't the deed. It was what Rafiq revealed next. Something about Serena that none of us saw coming. The room fell silent. Even the soft hum of the chandeliers seemed to pause as everyone turned to Rafiq. Waiting. My pulse was racing, not from fear this time, but anticipation. What could possibly come next? Rafiq took a deliberate step forward. There's more, he said, flipping another page from his folder. He held up a series of photographs, carefully labeled with dates and signatures. These aren't just documents. They're proof, I leaned in. My heart thumped against my ribs. Serena's composure cracked completely, her painted lips trembling. Adrian looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. Proof of what? Someone whispered. Rafiq's gaze swept the room, calm but icy. Proof of manipulation, proof of deceit, and proof that my sister, my mother, has been wronged in ways she never realized. Until today, he spread the photos across a table, each one showing small but damning evidence. Emails where Serena subtly pressured Adrian to bypass my input, receipts for expensive gifts I never received but was expected to fund, and even a notarized letter where Adrian had unknowingly agreed to certain concessions under Serena's suggestions. Every paper screamed strategy. Every photo told a story of calculated greed. Serena stammered, her voice shaking. That isn't... Rafiq's eyes narrowed. It is. Every bit of it. For the first time, Adrian's eyes darted between us like a man caught in a storm. The weight of reality was crushing him, and it was visible in the way he slumped against the wall. And there's something else, Rafiq continued, voice softer but sharp enough to cut through the tension. I contacted the lawyer who handles elder protections. The moment I presented them with this evidence, they confirmed something important. Nothing in these documents could have forced Mom to give up her home or her financial freedom. Legally, she was untouchable the entire time. You, Adrian, and Serena were acting on assumptions, greed, and manipulation, not law. A sharp murmur ran through the guests. Some exchanged shocked glances. Others were leaning in, hanging on every word. I swallowed hard. Every word Rafiq spoke was like a torch, illuminating the dark corridors of the past months. The humiliation, the betrayal, the gaslighting. It was all finally being exposed. Rafiq didn't stop there. He pulled one last item from his folder. A small envelope labeled Serena's Plan B. My stomach dropped. The words were enough to make anyone's blood run cold. You think this is just a wedding argument? He said, voice steady. You were plotting to seize my sister's assets. Months of planning, hidden meetings, and legal loopholes. And tonight it all comes to light. Serena's face was ashen. She looked around desperately, realizing she was no longer in control. Adrian, meanwhile, avoided our eyes, a silent admission of guilt. But just when it seemed the storm had passed, Rafiq paused, looked at me, and whispered something that made my blood run cold. Rafiq's words hung in the air, heavy and electric. The room seemed smaller, the chandeliers casting long shadows that mirrored the tension between us. My hands trembled slightly, but this time it wasn't fear. It was anticipation. What could this last secret be? He slowly opened the envelope, revealing a small, folded piece of paper. The writing was meticulous, almost clinical. I recognized the handwriting instantly. Serena's. My chest tightened. She had planned everything meticulously, leaving behind a paper trail that would have shocked even the most seasoned investigator. This, Rafiq said, holding the document up like evidence in a courtroom, was meant to be executed tonight, after the wedding chaos. A document transferring power of attorney to Adrian, giving him complete control over my sister's assets and home. All of it, without her consent. Gasps filled the room. Adrian's face went pale and Serena's hands shook. She had never expected this revelation to surface so quickly, so publicly. Her calm, manipulative exterior cracked, exposing fear for the first time. I took a deep breath. "You've been plotting against me. In front of everyone I trusted?" I asked, voice low but steady. The anger I had buried for months surged to the surface. "Do you have any idea what you've risked? Not just my money, but my dignity, my life?" Rafik nodded solemnly. "And yet," he continued, "despite all of this, the law protects your rights. You never signed, never agreed, and your legal standing remains intact. If this had gone through, no court could have defended it. But now it's all documented." Serena's shoulders slumped. Her carefully built facade of control had crumbled. Adrian stared at the floor, avoiding the eyes of every guest who now whispered among themselves. Their carefully plotted scheme, months in the making, had collapsed in minutes. I felt a strange calm wash over me. The fear, the anxiety, the sleepless nights, they were all behind me. For the first time in months, I could breathe, but Rafik wasn't done. "There's still one more person involved," he said, eyes scanning the room. "Someone who helped Serena coordinate this from the shadows. Someone you trusted more than anyone." I froze. My mind raced. Who else could have been part of this? Then it hit me. A familiar, quiet presence I had never suspected. The implications made my stomach churn. Betrayal ran deeper than I had imagined. "Who?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Rafik smiled faintly, almost grimly. "That, Aurora, is the twist that will shock you the most. And it's only going to get messier from here. If you thought tonight was the end of the storm, you were wrong. The truth was more dangerous than I had imagined." And the moment Rafik revealed the mastermind, my world tilted on its axis. Rafik's words lingered like a shadow over the ballroom. The identity of the hidden accomplice seemed impossible to guess. Yet my instincts screamed that it was someone close. Someone whose loyalty I had never questioned. My pulse quickened. Every heartbeat a drum of dread. "You need to see the evidence for yourself," Rafik said, motioning toward a sleek tablet he carried. He swiped through files, emails, and messages that made my stomach knot. The patterns were clear, the manipulations deliberate, and the signatures undeniable. Then, the screen stopped, highlighting a name. My breath caught. It was Joseph, my trusted neighbor, the man who had stood by me when the storm first broke, the man I had confided in for years. His calm demeanor, his constant support, it had all been a mask. "Joseph?" I whispered, disbelief washing over me. My mind raced. How could he betray me? He had comforted me, offered guidance, and even defended me publicly during the chaos at the wedding. Yet here, his fingerprints were all over the documents that orchestrated Serena and Adrian's plan. Rafik nodded slowly. He acted as a facilitator. Without his help, Serena couldn't have coordinated the legal threats or the financial transfers. He leveraged your trust to provide cover for her actions. 1,000 questions erupted in my mind, but my voice remained steady. "Why, Joseph? Why betray me? After everything we've been through?" He stepped forward slowly, hands raised as if in surrender. His eyes were not cold. They were conflicted, full of remorse. "Aurora, I was under pressure. I thought I could control it and guide them in a way that wouldn't harm you. But I miscalculated. I believed that helping Serena might keep the peace between you and the rest of the family." I felt a chill run through me. Peace? His betrayal had almost cost me my entire independence, my dignity and my life savings. Yet beneath the anger, I noticed hesitation, a crack of genuine guilt. "You were willing to risk everything for an illusion of peace?" I asked, voice low and sharp. "Do you understand what your actions almost caused? They could have taken everything from me." Joseph's lips trembled. I know, and I'll live with that for the rest of my life. I was wrong. Completely wrong." The room was silent. Every guest, every observer seemed frozen as if holding their collective breath. I realized that I had reached a crossroads, forgiveness and understanding, or a severed bond forever. But before I could respond, Rafik interrupted. "This isn't just about betrayal," he said gravely. "It's about what you do next. The choice you make now will determine not only your future but also the outcome for everyone involved. The person I trusted, Most had betrayed me, and now I had to decide: expose the truth and risk losing him forever, or find a way to turn this betrayal into my greatest advantage. I stared at Joseph, my mind spinning. The betrayal cut deep, but I knew letting raw emotion dictate my next move would be disastrous. I needed a plan, a strategy, that would turn their deceit into proof and their greed into a trap that could protect me and others like me. "Rafiq, show me everything again," I said, my voice calm but resolute. The tablet lit up once more with documents, screenshots, and bank statements. Patterns emerged that could not be denied. The transfers, the signed affidavits, the subtle manipulations, all orchestrated by Joseph under Serena's guidance. I realized then that the betrayal, as painful as it was, had provided me with undeniable evidence. I could use it to protect my rights, my assets, and even expose Serena publicly. But it would require careful maneuvering. One misstep and everything could be lost. "Joseph," I said, locking eyes with him, "I am giving you one chance to make this right. You will provide a full confession and testify about your role in their schemes. If you cooperate, it could significantly mitigate the damage they can cause." His face fell. Guilt and fear warred in his expression. He swallowed hard and nodded slowly. I'll do it, Aurora. I'll tell everything. I just hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me one day." Forgiveness was not my priority. Justice was. I had learned over the past months that protecting myself was an act of survival. And now, it was also a responsibility to others. With Rafiq's guidance, we began crafting a step-by-step plan to confront Serena and Adrian. The next morning, I held a private meeting in my apartment. The air was thick with anticipation. Lucy and Amelia were there, offering support and advice, while Rafiq outlined the legal and strategic steps. Every move had to be precise. The opposition had already proven how manipulative and cunning they could be. By the afternoon, we were ready. Serena arrived, confident as ever, expecting to intimidate me once again. But she was about to discover that the woman she had underestimated had not only survived the storm, she had also learned to anticipate it. "Serena, I hope you're ready," I said, standing firmly, my posture radiating authority. "You've underestimated me for too long, and now it's time for consequences. Your actions, your manipulations, and your attempts to control me are fully documented. Every signature, every communication, every deceitful act. You can't hide from the truth," her confident smirk faltered as I began presenting the evidence, systematically dismantling the narrative she had tried to construct for months. Every false claim, every misrepresentation, and every calculated move was exposed with precision. The end of the confrontation. Serena and Adrian were visibly shaken. Their allies faltered. The power dynamic had shifted dramatically, and the room was thick with tension and disbelief, but the most shocking revelation was yet to come. One that would not only redefine my relationship with Joseph, but also unveil a secret even Serena didn't anticipate. Serena's eyes widened as I clicked through the final document. The folders of evidence were arranged so meticulously that even the most confident manipulator would feel trapped. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. Adrian shifted uncomfortably beside her, his bravado faltering with every new piece of proof displayed on the table. Then came the revelation that none of them saw coming. Joseph's full confession, typed and notarized, showing his role in the scheme and, more importantly, exposing a hidden alliance Serena had thought secure. "Aurora," he said quietly, his voice steady for the first time in months. "I never wanted this to happen, but I couldn't let them continue destroying lives. They made me a part of their plan, but now it's over. You deserve the truth and the control of your life back." A cold shiver ran down Serena's spine. She had assumed her network was untouchable, that every piece of evidence she left would vanish into the shadows. But Joseph had flipped the script, turning her own strategy against her. Her plans to challenge my competency, to humiliate me publicly, now lay bare, undeniable, and legally actionable. Amelia leaned in, whispering to me, "Aurora, this could go national. We have enough here to protect dozens more from people like Serena." I nodded, feeling a surge of power I hadn't experienced since that disastrous wedding night. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about justice, protection, and reclaiming the dignity that had been stolen from me for too long. Took a deep breath, letting the calm I had cultivated over these months anchor me. "Serena, Adrian, this is your final warning," I said firmly. "You have one chance to resolve this quietly and legally. If you attempt to manipulate, threaten, or intimidate anyone further, the full weight of the law and public scrutiny will come down on you. Your reputation, your finances, and your freedom are all on the line. I hope you understand the gravity of this moment." They exchanged a glance, fear flickering in their eyes, and for the first time, I saw cracks in their armor. Their usual arrogance was gone, replaced by the realization that they had underestimated the resolve of someone they had once thought weak and pliable. After Serena left, defeated and silent, Joseph exhaled deeply. "I didn't know if I could face them," he admitted. "But seeing you stand so strong, it made me realize what real courage looks like." I smiled at him, the weight of months of stress finally lifting. "You've made your choice, Joseph. Now we rebuild and ensure that no one else suffers as we have." But just as I thought, the worst was behind me. A mysterious letter arrived the next morning. Its contents hinted at a new player, someone who had been watching the entire saga unfold, and whose next move could change everything. The envelope sat on my desk like a time bomb, its edges crisp and unnaturally white against the warm wooden surface. I hesitated before opening it, a strange mix of curiosity and caution gripping me. Joseph and Amelia hovered nearby, sensing the gravity of the moment. "Aurora," Amelia whispered. "Whatever is inside, it could change everything." With deliberate care, I slid out the folded sheet of paper. The handwriting was unfamiliar, precise, and almost surgical in its perfection. It read, "Mrs. Hughes, you have done well, but you have only scratched the surface. There is someone far more dangerous than Serena, someone who has been orchestrating events behind the scenes. If you wish to protect everything and everyone you care about, you will need to meet me. Tonight, alone, midnight, Riverside Park." I felt a chill run through me. Another threat? Another hidden enemy? Part of me wanted to dismiss it, to call the police and ignore the mysterious summons. But a stronger part, one sharpened by months of exposure to deception and manipulation, knew that turning away wasn't an option. If someone was pulling strings behind the scenes, I needed to understand their intentions and stop them before they could strike. Joseph frowned. This could be a trap. It could be a scam, someone trying to bait you into danger. His protective instincts flared, the same ones that had kept him close throughout my battles. "We should call security, maybe even involve the authorities." I shook my head. "No. If we bring the police, it alerts whoever sent this that we know. We need information first, then we act. Tonight I'll go. You two will stay here and be ready in case things go wrong." The hours crawled. Every tick of the clock echoed in my ears like a warning bell. Midnight approached, and with it, the knowledge that the next steps would define not just my future, but the foundation I had built, the seniors I had sworn to protect, and the dignity I had reclaimed at great personal cost. At exactly midnight, I parked near Riverside Park, my breath forming visible clouds in the cold night air. The shadows were thick, the silence absolute, except for the distant hum of the city. From the darkness emerged a figure, tall, lean, moving with confidence. The stranger stepped into the lamplight, revealing features partially obscured by a hood. "You must be Aurora Hughes," the figure said, voice calm but with an undercurrent of power. "I've been waiting to meet the woman who refused to be broken." I squared my shoulders, the fear and anticipation mixing into a strange exhilaration. "And you are?" I demanded, every instinct on high alert. The figure smiled faintly. "Let's just say, I've been watching, ensuring the right lessons are learned. But tonight, Aurora, the game changes. Are you ready for what comes next?" I realized then that the real battle had only just begun. Behind the familiar faces of betrayal lay a shadow far more cunning. And tonight, I would meet the person who had been orchestrating it all. The figure stepped closer, the hooded face now partially revealed under the dim park lamplight. My heart raced, every muscle taut with anticipation and caution. This was no ordinary stranger. The way they moved, the quiet authority in their voice. It was clear they had knowledge, strategy, and a purpose that went far beyond a simple threat. "I've seen everything you've accomplished. Aurora," the figure said, removing the hood to reveal a middle-aged woman with sharp eyes and a calm presence. "Your resilience, your ability to turn pain into power. Impressive. But you've been targeted by people who are not satisfied with small victories. They want control, influence, and wealth. They underestimated you, and now I've come to make sure they don't succeed. I studied her carefully, noting every detail, the way her coat fell perfectly, the way her hands were steady, and the subtle but unmistakable aura of someone who had faced danger and won. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. "Why help me?" "My name is Eleanor," she replied calmly. "I've been tracking the network of manipulation and abuse that your son and his fiancée are a part of. You are not the first they've targeted, but you are the first to fight back with such precision. That makes you dangerous to them. I am here to ensure that your fight doesn't end prematurely." The words struck me. Someone else had been watching all along, keeping tabs on the same people who had tried to destroy me. It was almost impossible to comprehend. I had thought the war was personal, confined to family and finances. Now I understood it was part of a far larger web of deceit, manipulation, and predation. "Eleanor," I asked, gripping my hands to stop them from trembling. "What do I do now? How do I protect myself and everyone else involved?" She nodded, her expression solemn. "You continue as you have, but with strategy. Public exposure was your first step, education and awareness the second. Now comes the final stage. Uncover the root of their operation and make sure it can never harm anyone again. I will guide you, but the final moves must be yours." I swallowed hard, understanding the enormity of what lay ahead. My personal struggles had escalated into something far bigger than my immediate family drama. It was a fight not just for justice, but for the safety and dignity of countless others who had been silently suffering. Eleanor's gaze met mine. "Are you ready, Aurora Hughes?" she asked. I took a deep breath, feeling a mixture of fear, determination, and the strange thrill of knowing that finally I was not alone in this fight. "Yes," I replied firmly. "I'm ready." As we began planning our next steps, I realized the storm was far from over. The people who thought they could control me had underestimated the power of truth and the allies I would gain along the way. The days that followed felt like stepping into a whirlwind. Eleanor guided me meticulously, revealing the hidden threads of deception that Ethan and Juliet were part of. We discovered the network of financial manipulation, the secret documents, and the web of influence they had tried to weave around my life. Every revelation stoked a mix of anger and clarity within me. Realized the fight was no longer just personal. It was for justice, for every senior who had been coerced, manipulated, or silenced. With Eleanor's guidance, I compiled evidence, contacted lawyers, and prepared to take the final steps. The network had underestimated me, and I intended to make them regret it. The day of the final confrontation arrived. We scheduled a public hearing, not just as a legal formality, but as a stage to expose everything. Media outlets arrived, cameras rolling, questions poised, and the world watching. Ethan and Juliet walked in, their faces pale, realizing for the first time that the game they thought they controlled was crumbling. I stood before the room with Eleanor and Carlos at my side, calm, composed, unwavering. Every accusation, every scheme, every lie was countered with facts, evidence, and witnesses who supported the truth. As the courtroom absorbed each revelation, a hush fell, a quiet acknowledgement of integrity over greed. When the final gavel struck, it wasn't just a legal victory, it was a moral triumph. Ethan and Juliet were held accountable for their actions. The assets and properties they had tried to claim were restored. And the most important victory of all, the public saw the power of courage, dignity, and setting boundaries, no matter the age. Months later, the Aurora Hughes Foundation had grown beyond my wildest dreams. Seniors across the country now had a voice, resources, and legal protection. Joseph, Lucy, and Amelia continued to be my pillars, helping others reclaim their lives. And I, for the first time in decades, felt a sense of peace and fulfillment that no betrayal or manipulation could ever take away. Looking back, I understood the most important lesson. True family is not only about blood, but about respect, trust, and love. Sometimes love means walking away, standing firm, and demanding dignity. My story had become a beacon for thousands, proving that it is never too late to fight back, to educate, and to inspire change. And now, I want to hear from you. Have you or someone you know faced manipulation or abuse in your family? Share your story in the comments. I read every single one. If you found my journey inspiring, Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more stories of courage, resilience, and empowerment. Together, we can build a world where everyone's dignity is respected, no matter their age. Click subscribe. And join me as we continue uncovering stories of truth, justice, and life lessons that inspire change. Your support helps us keep sharing these powerful stories with the world.